Game genres go in and out of fashion all the time, but for nearly 30 years, first-person shooters have been one of the industry's most reliable sources for blockbuster experiences that often help dictate the future of the medium. So in this video, we are going to discuss Top 10 Best Military Shooter Games. The video is going to be amazing. Make sure to stick till the end. Before starting the video, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to never miss out on any of our videos. Number 10. Superhot. Superhot is one part puzzle game, one part FPS, and one part cinematic gunfight simulator. This unique shooter is built around the ability to slow down time by standing still. Taking a moment to survey the situation is the key to victory, but only speed will save you in this impossibly stylish and devilishly difficult game. Definitely play Superhot in VR if you ever get the chance to do so, but there's no bad way to play one of the most creative and engaging FPS games ever made, as well as one of gaming's most potent shots of pure adrenaline. Number 9. Dusk. 2018's Dusk may be a tribute to several genre classics that came before it, but the way that this game so perfectly recreates the feeling of playing those games, rather than how so many of them actually play today, strangely elevates it above many of those FPS pioneers. Even people who usually don't like the find-the-key labyrinth levels, blistering pace style of FPS game that Dusk pays homage to often find themselves hopelessly addicted to this game's airtight mechanics, exceptional pacing, and how it reminds us that, above all else, games are meant to be fun. Number 8. Metro 2033. Metro 2033 owes a debt to some games that came before, including Stalker, Shadow of Chernobyl, which many members of the Metro 2033 team worked on. But when it comes to this style of atmospheric FPS game, it may still be the very best. Metro 2033 embraced its survival horror concepts in a way that even the incredible entries into this series that followed were never quite able to recreate. The atmosphere in this game is so thick and intimidating that it can make you feel like you're gasping for air as you play it, which makes it that much more impressive that you'll feel consistently compelled to push forward, no matter how daunting things become. Number 7. Borderlands 2. While I feel like the original Borderlands is honestly kind of underrated in the grand scheme of the franchise, it's hard to deny that Borderlands 2 is when this series really found its footing and remains the game the Borderlands franchise is chasing to this day. Not everyone was a fan of this game's humor, but that desire to go this far over the top is arguably the reason why Borderlands 2 so confidently combined the best aspects of co-op games, looter RPGs, and first-person shooters. From its base campaign to its incredible DLC, this is still one of the best FPS adventures you can share with friends. Number 6. Counter-Strike. Released at a time when multiplayer FPS games were supposed to be as fast as possible, Counter-Strike bucked nearly every genre trend by forcing players to embrace a methodical form of gameplay where just a couple of bullets could determine a game. It was the kind of bold experiment that could only have come from outside the industry, and it was absolutely brilliant. Counter-Strike is arguably the greatest competitive FPS game ever made. Even in its early stages, it was an intelligently balanced multiplayer experience that required a unique set of skills. Remarkably though, learning the ropes in this game rarely felt like a chore. It's one of the most important FPS games ever, and it's certainly one of the best. Number 5. Halo: Combat Evolved. It's a shame that the Combat Evolved part of Halo's full name is so often overlooked, as that's really the thing that separated this legendary shooter from nearly every FPS game at the time. The methods you use to battle Halo's Covenant enemies may seem standard now, but the way this title forced you to carefully consider your combat tactics against truly intelligent AI opponents really did help change everything. Then again, how can you fault anyone for mostly remembering Halo for its multiplayer? 16-player LAN matches may seem humble now, but the fact is that even the biggest online multiplayer games can't quite match the feeling of experiencing Halo's local multiplayer at its biggest and boldest. Number 4. Half-Life. Nobody was really looking for a game like Half-Life in 1998. Honestly, few people at that time could have envisioned such a thing. In an era where FPS games were defined by their heavy metal style, B-movie campaigns, and deathmatch multiplayer, The idea of a first-person shooter with a story to tell and a world to sell that wasn't constantly sacrificing action for narrative seemed impossible. Do you know what's really impressive though? Half-Life didn't just use the FPS format to tell an incredible story. It did it in a way that redefined what we talk about when we talk about immersion in games. Few developers to this day are able to replicate that style of storytelling, and even if they were, fewer still would ever be able to innovate the FPS genre quite the same way that Half-Life did. Number 3. Doom. The often cited godfather of FPS games really needs no introduction. There's a reason why first-person shooters were called Doom clones for years after this game's release. What's truly amazing though is that Doom did things in 1993 that modern game developers still struggle to recreate. Even an unmodded version of Doom still has the ability to grab you by the throat and not let you go until you've seen the end of its brutal campaign. Doom was certainly the first in a lot of ways, but the thing that matters most may just be the ways it's still the best. Number 2. Half-Life 2. It's been said that part of the reason why Valve has hesitated to finish Half-Life 3 is that they reached a point where they felt like the expectations for the game had become unrealistic and detrimental. Well, you could argue that Half-Life 2 was released under similar circumstances. Well, Half-Life 2 didn't meet expectations. It exceeded them. Half-Life 2 didn't so much blaze a path forward for the genre as it leaped into the air and landed somewhere other developers couldn't quite see but desperately wanted to be. This is a nearly perfect single-player game that does things with pacing and level design that honestly feel even more refreshing all these years later, given how many studios have strayed from the light of this title's brilliance. Number 1. Call of Duty 4: Modern Warfare. There are two eras of Call of Duty games, and each of them represents two distinct eras of FPS design. The first era, as represented by the first few Call of Duty games, was more about single-player campaigns and complementary multiplayer options. The second era of the franchise focused on evolving a style of multiplayer that would turn this series into a global phenomenon. Well, Call of Duty 4 is the game that bridges those two eras and somehow manages to feature arguably the best single-player campaign in FPS history and some of the best multiplayer in FPS history. Even at a time when we were spoiled by incredible Call of Duty campaigns, Modern Warfare stunned people with its shocking story and brilliant missions, highlighted by the legendary All Gillied Up. We didn't know it at the time, but the game's multiplayer would also go on to change competitive FPS titles forever and help turn this franchise into a multi-billion-dollar household name. Let us know your opinion in the comments section below. This was all for today. Hope you liked the video. Subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more interesting videos. Stay safe, and we will be back soon with another video.